It's hard for us to remember when we were simply a soul, hanging out in the universe, enjoying our experience, looking down at this planet Earth. And perhaps we would wonder, what would it be like to just slide down through time and space and the density of matter and arrive on this physical, vibrantly beautiful planet filled with light and color and sound and water and sunshine and all of these adventures wide open for us to experience in the physical form. Each of us guiding one another and walking side by side in community. What would that journey be like? Welcome to Healing Our Souls. Good morning, and welcome to Healing Our Souls, episode number 1, Spotlight on Andrea Hernandez. Yeah, so we'll just say up front, like, we're getting used to the technology. So there is a camera up there that's filming. So I look there to see you, but when I look at the screen, I see you here. So you're going to see our eyes going back and forth between both places. I'm excited and like bouncy because I'm so happy. And also I can feel the importance of what we're opening a portal for. And there is no one I would rather do this with than you. So I'm going to take a moment and introduce my dear friend Andrea to all of you who are watching this. I know this is the squirmy part. So where do I begin? I met Andrea in my early 20s. I know I'm looking at you, but I should look at the camera. So I met Andrea in my early 20s. I was a college student who went to college for a year and met this amazing man named Stephen, who graduated the same year as me from Cincinnati, but we both ended up in Indianapolis, right, for college at Butler University. And he started dating this woman named Andrea a couple of years after I had left Butler and come back home. And he wanted to bring her to town, and we were going to meet. And I was surprised because you were a few years older than him. You were so wise. He was such a high energy, running around, always got to go. And you were so grounded and calm. And I'm like, what is this relationship? But yeah, we didn't spend a lot of time together. And then Stephen passed away in an airplane accident when he was 27. And it was the opening, right? The beginning of a relationship that has now lasted for almost 20 years, which, that's just a gift. You are a gift in my life. So when he passed, you taught me about grief, and how to not close your heart and how to find the gifts and the lessons when you lose someone that you love. And you walked me through that with such grace while you were also holding your own immense grief. This was your love. Mm-hmm. This was your soul love. Mm-hmm. And it was a huge loss for you. But you still held space, for me to find my way through it too. And that was just incredible. And then, swallowing tears. And then I got married and I had my first baby, and you taught me how to be a mama, right? Like, raise those babies as independent, beautiful, creative individuals, and don't make them little mirrors of yourself. I don't have words for the gift of that, right? Like the way you have shown me how to be a mom. Wow. And then you started my entry into, I don't even know what I'd call it, this world of magic, this world of mystery, exploring coincidences and signs and connections with God, source. You opened the door to new readings, new topics. It's just been incredible to grow alongside you. And then I started to step into my work, my gifts, and you have held space for me and cheerleaded and
Yeah.
nudged and pushed and told me, like, get out of your own way, go do this thing that you do. So today, as we begin this community, it's what I see it as, like this community of people who are also seeking and who don't know necessarily the next step, but they know there's something that they'd like to try. And where do they go to find support and people to hold space and love them through all of their messiness? And then when they become brilliant, who's actually going to stick with them when they're brilliant? Who's going to say, yes, and there's more, right? You can be more brilliant than that. A lot of communities only want you to go to a certain point. And then when you get too big, they're like, stop, don't outgrow our cool community, right? Like, stay in this space that feels so good. And you and I are so committed to something different, like be bigger, be braver, be bolder, do more. So it is perfect. I'm all giggly. It's like perfect. But it's you and I getting to chat today. So yeah, do you want to add anything to that before we start talking about your journey as a soul?
I think I'm complete. I'm settling into this space. This is very new for me. I guess I will say part of a community of support is not just about you can do it, you're doing great, you're doing wonderfully, but it's also calling curse word alert bullshit on each other, just as you did for me the other day to get out there and be seen. And I created my first video. So community support is being authentic and allowing yourself to be vulnerable and to receive genuine loving support, because sometimes it's easy to coddle people and say, you're so fine where you're at. If you're not feeling it today, it's okay, and that is helpful in so many regards, but sometimes you need that friend, that true friend who's going to be like, I'm calling you out. You're not going to get to do that. You're not going to get to be small today. You can do that tomorrow, but not today. So thank you for being that sounding board and reflection for me.
Same. Same. That's the other thing. I was thinking about this yesterday. So many friends, well, this is a general statement, so maybe it's not true for everyone, but it feels like you kind of get this role in your friendship, right? So I'm the one who knows how to do this and you're the one who doesn't, or I'm the one who is going to be stronger and you're going to be the follower. There's like these roles and we fall into them and they get really comfortable. And what's been so cool for you and I, it's like sometimes you're absolutely the teacher and I'm like, oh God, tell me more. Like, what else, right? And then other times, like, I'm clearly going, I see you and know, do more. And it's just a beautiful flow. Above all, you're my sister, you're my love, like, I know we'll be friends forever. And yet there's still this other way we play together that is beautiful.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
So I feel like we need to start with Stephen. It started with Stephen. I feel like we need to go back and start with Stephen again.
Okay.
So what do you want to say
about Stephen? You can tell we did not rehearse questions, so thank you for allowing me the space to have a genuine reflection for that answer. Stephen, brilliant personality, just a go-getter. Everything was big for him. Every achievement. He was in medical school when I met him, just finishing his first year. He was also a advanced water deep sea diver. He took voice lessons. He played guitar. He got his pilot's license. He joined the Air Force Reserve and was a flight surgeon. He wanted to go further and he flew in an F-16 fighter jet as a passenger. Always just reaching for the gusto, just full speed ahead. So in his 27 years, that life was so expansive and so full of adventure absolute adventure. Sometimes a little risk, but always adventure. And, you know, he brought that into my life. He brought that into everyone's life, just this huge personality and spirit and light. So when he passed, when I got word that morning that his plane went down there in Cincinnati, yeah, I guess this is going to reflect on grief a little bit and how you manage that. But in our relationship, let me just say, it was the most passionate relationship or anyone could probably ever hope for. And passion and intimacy, passion in debate, passion in conversations and experiences. Yeah, so when he passed, you can imagine that void. And in our relationship, there was always, although he was fulfilling himself with all of these external adventures, he was also battling and bumping up against the membrane of allowing his heart to expand or to be seen or to be felt, perhaps. He brought that to me, but he was always reaching out, like, I have the tiger, you know, this relationship, the energy that I expend on this relationship, I need to divert my focus and get it back into studying. And, you know, so there was always this push and pull, push and pull, push and pull. But he always came back to the love. He always came back to the love, because love feels so beautiful. You know, it doesn't exhaust you. Love fills you up. Yeah. And everything he was reaching for was exhausting. So he came back to that love. So when I did get the news, I used that as an opportunity I went on my patio, and after I was in the fetal position crying, I went on my patio and I just reached out to Source and I said, I'm not going to be mad. I'm not going to be angry. I'm not going to ask why. And in return, I want to receive every single miracle possible to explore this journey, right? This part of our relationship, this part of our journey. And so the magic ensued, you know, the magic ensued. Yeah, it was the biggest learning curve of my life, and yet the most outstanding, powerful experience and learning of my life. So I could go on and on, so I would like this to go. I guess I would say, just since I touched on the grief part, what I found oftentimes, you know, my daughter who was not his birth child. She has a great father, but she was 3 when we started dating, and he taught her to swim, and he taught her to read, and he taught her how to play chess. You know, she was playing chess by the time she was 5. That's his energy, which is so great. Yeah, so figuring out how to tell your child how someone has passed away like that. And because he loved sailboats and flying, and they were both right by my home, I just asked her, where would you like to go if you need to hear a little something that's kind of sad? And she said, do you want to be by airplanes or sailboats? And of course she said airplanes. So I just took her there, and she sat in my lap, and I shared that with her. She was 7 at the time, and her response was, I always liked them better with long hair.
I forgot she said that.
I know. But in the midst of that, you're taking such good care of all those people around, like his parents, who wouldn't want to go grieve for the parents, and assist them and love them and share a part of him that you knew intimately with them, all the things that perhaps they didn't know about him. And then you're caring for your own child and her grief. And what I found is it was, I didn't have a lot of time for grieving for myself. So once I got everyone tucked in at night, Dana tucked in and myself, that's when the real miracles and the magic and the release came from in that moment. So yeah. Hey, we get so busy taking care of others that we forget to fill ourselves up, which leads into my soul filter, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think what I also would like for you to touch on is, you ended up getting a little stuck, right? Because I don't think you were able to process your grief. You were so busy taking care of all of us, and you're still such a caretaker, right? You still take care of Steve's mom, and she's your mother-in-law, whether you were married or not. Like, she's your mother-in-law, and you love her deeply that way. And you also were taking care of your mom and your brothers, and you have had a lot of loss in your journey, and you have been a caretaker for so many of those people that you loved. But what I remember from a few years ago, probably 2 to 3 years ago, there was this like rumbling that was happening inside of you, like, I'm done taking care of everybody, even your dog, right? Lacey, you love Lacey so much, but there was still this like, like, is there ever going to be room for me? Do you want to share some of that, or you don't have to if you don't want?
Yeah, so my mother lived with me the last 2 years of her life while she was pretty far into Alzheimer's. And you can get so lost in that. Well, I won't say lost. You can become so invested in that caregiving. It's a very high level of caregiving, and it requires so much compassion and patience, which fortunately I was gifted with. Yeah, and with my brother who went deaf just a year before she came to live with me, went completely deaf and had liver cancer and had a liver transplant. So all of this stuff going on, and it's so right. I really did get lost in that role of caregiver, but I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't change any part of that, because I did it really, really well. I did it really, really well. That's my skill set, right?
I get sick, I'm calling you in.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So getting lost in that and not reaching out for help, or I should say when people offer you help as a caregiver, for example, any part of your life, or someone with, I think, my filter, when someone reaches out to you as a caregiver and says, what do you need from me? What can I do? How can I help? For me, and I imagine that filter, which we'll learn a little more about, those are like the worst ways to help to reach out to me, because when someone would say, what do you need help with? What can I do? For me, I received that. I heard it. I translated it as, this is your full-time job and you're not doing very well right now, and I'm going to need to come in and fix things and help. And I was like, oh no, we're fine. I'm fine. I'm doing fine. Even though inside I really just wanted someone to come in and help, but I could not receive it when it was worded that way. But if someone were to stop by and just bring food without saying, can I bring food for you? Or what can I bring? If someone would stop by and we would be visiting and they would say, hey, I'm going to be here for a little bit. Why don't you run to the grocery store, or go sit on the porch, or go to the park, or take a nap, or, go vacuum, whatever it is. Then I could receive it. Just on the way it was directed toward me. But yes, getting lost in that, and so embedded in that. She passed in May of 2013. And then I had, I've got to say, it was one of the better parts of my life afterwards. It was such a double-edged sword, feeling that sweet release of all of that responsibility, and yet mourning the loss of my mother.
Cracked your heart open.
Yeah, so I thought it was like one of the best summers I'd had in so long. And then quickly I fell back into the caregiver role for my doggie, for my dog Lacey, for the next year. And she, well, actually she just passed a year ago. So in all of that, it is losing yourself in the story. You get lost in the story. You get lost in the role or the title that has been created and you have created, you know, caregiver, you're the caregiver, you're the caregiver. And it's interesting because someone asked me one time, who will you be after the caregiving? Who will you be? And I didn't have an answer. I didn't have an answer.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, I'd been a caregiver for so many years, you know, for my father who had a stroke on the operating table and caring for him. And I was their voice, you know, I served as their voice and their thoughts when they were both out of their minds, both of my parents. So, yeah, so, and then I come to this point, where I am at this point. So,
yeah, so maybe if you want, I can share a little bit about the moon filter and then.
Seems to be coming up.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, we set the intention, we talk about it, but I love your story. I love the way you speak. It's just beautiful. The moon filter. So what would I say about that? So for people who don't know, right, if you're watching this, you've never heard about the filters, there is this belief, this way that I see our souls making choices to come down and have these human experiences. And so we put on some sort of shroud or veil over our brilliance as a soul, right? We know everything, we see everything, we do everything, and then we have to come into this human body. So we have to put some sort of cover over the brilliance. And the way that I've described the soul filters, which, you know, you were the one who recorded the story that I have on my website, which was so much fun to share with you.
It was
so fun. Midnight, right? It was midnight and we were up all day doing all this amazing coaching work. And then we climb into bed and you're like, I think that you should tell me the soul filter story. Like, now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I sat against the wall and I was like, all right, here's the bedtime story, Andrea. And you recorded on your phone and it was just so perfect. It was just an outflowing of love and so sweet. Yeah, it felt like a little pajama party, like, okay, let's tell the bedtime story. Then we're going to go to bed and then we're going to wake up in the morning and make pancakes. Yeah, so the moon filter. Well, so there's 5 filters, right? There's the star, the Orion, which is a constellation, the planet, the moon, and the ring. And so each of those cosmic concepts, objects, right, they have ways that they behave within the universe. So, you know, a star, it shines, it's light, and it's brilliant, and it's part of a collective of all of the stars, you know, and so each one has its own sort of theme. And the moon filter, which is your primary, and I don't know how I know this, I just know this. And I know everyone's like, well, teach me. I don't know how to teach you. I just know I know this. And I use muscle testing, right? So I check all the time and I'm like, yeah, moon filter, 100%, you are a moon filter. So the moon filter would behave like a moon, right? When you put that filter on your soul and you come into the human body, what you expect as a human is you're going to be playing with light and shadow. You're going to be doing these evolutions, just like a new moon to a full moon. You know, you're going to start with no light, just barely shining a little bit, just a tiny bit. And then as you gain your confidence, as you go through your cycles, you're going to be more and more and more brilliant. You'll get to the full moon. And then when you're waning, right, sometimes you have these brilliant explosions of light and then you have to contract and come back into like, ooh, you know, I'm not quite sure. And so the moon has these beautiful cycles, and you have depth. You can hold the range of that, the shadow and the light, the masculine and the feminine, you know, pain and joy. Like you can hold all of these contrasts. Yeah, I know, it's so good, right? Like you can hold all of these contrasts as a moon. To me, the moon is inherently seen as deeply feminine, but there are many men who have that same capacity, right? They have this ability to connect
with the masculine and the feminine in a really profound way. So as a primary, the way that it would show for you is typically the moon is going to be behind something or be in relationship to someone else, right? The moon is in relationship to the planet. And so it orbits around the planet, and it's in relationship to the sun. It reflects the light of the sun. So when you're a moon filter, a lot of how you identify yourself is who I am in relationship to somebody else. So I'm going to be the wife of this person or the caretaker of my mom. And you tend to get lost, and I use the word lost in quotes, right? You tend to get lost sort of in the taking care of, understanding, processing for other people, holding space for other people. Like you're so in their experience that often the moon can forget, like you're an individual too. What is it that you want to create? But when you finally get that, it's like, watch out, right? Watch out. Like what you can do with this contrast that's ready to explode out of you is tremendous. And what I believe is, you know, when we put these filters on as a human, we come in knowing that we are that, right? You as a little girl, I'm sure, told your mom, like, I see things, I know things, I'm magical, I'm playful, I'm incredible, I have all these things to share with the world. And then we tend to, as a moon filter, have parents who, you know, squish us down or make us feel smaller or bring their fears in, you know, or pass us their emotions. And all of that, like we want that, we create that so that we can get smaller, smaller, smaller. And then over the course of our lifetime, work through the contrast, work through the opposite. So if you're going to be this brilliant moon filter, you've got to experience not shining your light, not being brilliant, so that when you finally are ready,
right,
you can hold it.
right.
Right.
I do have a couple of reflections on that moon filter piece. So when you talk about being a little girl, I just remember there was so much chaos. It feels like chaos around me, yet it was fun. There was so much fun. But I would see things or witness things, and I don't mean tragically, but just I didn't have a voice, and no one thought to ask, how are you feeling about this? Or let's talk about what just happened. So what I ended up doing was withdrawing, you know, going into the shadow, go into the shadow where it's safe, and I'm going to sit here and watch from this perspective. And I just remember going through so many parts of my life growing up where I would see something, and because it was not fully explained to me, or no one sat down with me, or I didn't go ask for an explanation, my imagination filled up the story, right? Just made it whatever it was that based on what I saw. And I had, this is all in beautiful retrospect, I had a lot of issues with hyperventilating. Like I probably was holding so much energy or processing so much even as a young girl that I hyperventilated a lot. I withdrew. I didn't want to cause any more, I guess I just didn't feel like there was space for me to play out there sometimes, because there was so much going on with my older brothers in their hippie phase, right? They were taking up plenty of time and energy. Yeah, so oftentimes when I was going through bouts of sadness or trying to process, and people would say, are you okay? And I would say, yeah, I'm just a little sleepy.
Oh, it's good.
I'm just tired.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, everybody's going to leave you alone. Everyone gets that. But yeah, so I hid with that excuse for so long, just, you know, no, I'm fine. I'm okay. I'm good. And holy cow, now that I look back, I'm like, honey, if I could hug myself, pull myself aside and go, let's talk about this. Damn, you know, that was tough. But I had my filter so I could stay in the shadows a bit. So you know, you don't want to bring anything else forward to add to the chaos or what's going on. So you just step back, you know, and you're whatever anybody needs you to be at that moment. And if it's quiet or hidden or not needing attention, that's the way I could help, you know, I'll stay back here. And it was when I was probably 27, someone asked me, as total stranger, what are your interests? Yeah, I didn't have an answer. I didn't have an answer, which was life-changing for me in the best way. Because, you know, in relationships with men and in my marriage, it's like, oh, you like sports? And I do, but you like sports? Okay, I like sports. You like to fly in planes? Okay, I'll, you know.
Right, literally.
Fly in planes.
I'll go fly with you in the middle of a storm.
I have a genuine interest because of my personality. I like that adventure and learning new things. However, no one ever directed it back to me and said, what are your interests? What would you like? What are you focusing on? What are you learning? What do you love? What do you desire? It's always me shape-shifting to allow others the experience to enjoy their interest and their desires.
Yes.
And I'll enjoy what I can as an observer over here, you know, and not fully participating because it's not mine.
Yes. Yeah, and it becomes a pattern, right? And when the pattern gets set and we get older and we're more comfortable with the pattern and it just becomes familiar, something pretty significant has to like wake you up in that space. Do you care if I talk about your secondary quickly?
No, please. Go ahead.
So your secondary is the Orion, which is a constellation, right? For me, it's the most famous of all of the constellations, which is why I use it as the name. So for the Orion, you know, if you picture what a constellation would be in the galaxy, it's a pattern or a combination of lots of stars, but when you bring them together, they make some sort of form or a signal, and then that can be a guide for people here on Earth. Like, oh, it's the Little Dipper, I'm supposed to go this way, or oh, it's the Big Dipper, I go this direction, right? It's a compass or a map for humans. And so when a soul would put on that filter and you come in, you expect like, okay, I have this project when I get into humanity that I'm going to look for brilliant stars, I'm going to bring them together, and we're going to create something amazing that's never existed, and watch out world, right? So let's go. And you come, especially for you, knowing you can hold the capacity, you can see brilliance and darkness and shadow and light and like, whoa, you are so powerful. And you can also bring people together. But then when you arrive here and everyone's telling you, shh, you know, keep it small, don't do this thing. You start to wonder, like, who's actually going to come work with me or play with me? Or, you know, what's my value? I thought I was supposed to be the organizer and there's no one to hang out with. And so this fear of being abandoned starts to come up, right? It's like shadowy. It's like if I don't do it right, if I don't play well, they're not going to want to hang out with me. So not only am I not the leader trying to bring them together, but also I really want to stay in the group. So I'm going to, you know, form myself into what is needed. It gets really messy. And so this fear of being abandoned is what I see often, right? It's my primary. And so you don't think you have enough value on your own, right? My interests, I don't know. Like, let's just focus on your interests, not on mine. And so you're navigating in a way of feeling less than and being afraid that if you don't please everyone and do what they need, you're going to end up by yourself. And I say this knowing I do this too, right? I'm not saying anything about you that isn't true about me. We have the same filters, but flipped, right? So mine's primary Orion, secondary moon, and yours is primary moon, secondary Orion. But there's a strength that comes from that, right? Because in the looking at the fear of being abandoned, what you realize is like, you will never abandon yourself. You're not going to leave yourself. You're not going to give up on yourself. And so you get this strength that is fierce. Like when it finally lands, when it settles inside of you, like I am hugely important and valuable in this life for these millions of reasons, and I'm taking a stand for myself, right? I'm stepping up and I'm claiming that I have a purpose that is absolutely unique. And when I'm here to do this purpose, you all better get out of the way, because I'm going this direction.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that has been a shift that I have been gifted with watching in you over the past year especially, but the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to share some of that fun story? As much as you want to share.
Which story are you talking about?
Well, it's more like the path that you've been on, right? So you came to a retreat at my house. I nudged you about probably 2 years ago. And then you came again like a year ago. And then we started doing more and more talking and like, what? You know, I could feel you like, so I want to come out of my cocoon because the world still looks scary, folks. But also I can't stay in my cocoon anymore, right? And then Lacey's passing it was like a releasing almost, like you didn't have to be taking care of anyone, and your daughter was older, and there's been this like eruption happening in you that has been fun.
It has. So, yes, learning to be the caregiver of yourself, of your soul.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful opportunity. And when you're in the midst of it, you know, so many people, and it doesn't even mean a caregiver of someone who's ill. It's a caregiver of your children. It's a caregiver of your significant other. It's a caregiver of the people you work with, you know, always tending to those needs, making sure everyone's getting along. I think a great trait for a moon filter as myself is a mediator. We're a mediator. Are you good? Are you good? This is what he's trying to say. You know, so it's a beautiful, beautiful gift. And especially when it's in the light, it's a beautiful gift. But, you know, to be able to turn that in for yourself and be the caregiver of your soul, of yourself, of your desires. You know, I had this whole world open up to me of, okay, I don't have an excuse anymore for staying home. You know, that's always your answer. I got to stay home. You know, I got to be with my mom. My mom's having a rough day. You know, Lacey's not feeling it. It's a pattern and it's a story and it's very real. It's very real. So when you are able to move through that to the other side of the role of caregiver in that way, it's a little bit daunting. It's a lot daunting. Like, so now what do I do with myself? You know, I forgot about myself for all these years and it was intense and I did such a great job. And now, parent, what is value now?
It's so funny. Your voice is cutting out. Hang on a second.
Oh, it is.
No, it's better now. It was funny. It was like you were starting to speak your truth and it said, internet is unstable. Andrea's speaking up. Watch out. Internet is unstable. You're going to blow the phone lines.
So
I'm good. I'm hanging. You just find your
Okay. Yeah.
There you go.
Having at the same time that becoming a caregiver who is free of that, moving through and realizing that part of your contract life is complete. You know, it's almost overwhelming because you get the sense of the whole world's out there. What do I want to do? I don't know what I want to do. So it's grand and it's overwhelming at the same time. Much of open opportunity in front of you. So what I found is that I, you know, was at home a lot and I knew I kind of had these interests. I'm a Reiki master. I studied God signs, so I can do certified God signs. So I had these few gifts in my back pocket, but nothing that I had really worked with. And so stay small. And when you need to read,
hey, babe, I'm going to pause you for just a sec.
Walk the door.
Hey, Andrea.
You know,
I'm going to pause you. Hold on. I'm going to pause you for a sec. Go ahead and do some grounding. Like just drop your roots and ground in.
Feel free.
Yeah, because
I need to ground.
You need to ground. We need to ground. Yeah. Because you're like, yeah, the internet's getting unstable. And I think it's just because you're speaking just for you now. And it's like, whoa, right? So there you go. So just drop some roots, go all the way down. There you go. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to hear you. Like, this is super important for me to hear you. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want me to?
Yeah. So you were talking about the
certain place.
You were talking about the things that you know how to do and how you're adding to that.
Okay, thank you. Yes, so still being in my cocoon, thinking I had a few gifts to offer, but I had no idea how to get that message out there, what to do with that. And so the first time at retreat at your home, I walked into a beautiful, energetic, powerful, feminine energy sisters who I met at your wedding, but didn't really know them. You were really my only person who I really knew. And actually, I knew you, but I never got to know you even better and more deep at that time. And so, you know, I started creating some community there, some community of support. And in that retreat, much of it was about letting go of Stephen letting go of some of that pain, releasing some of that pain, not holding on to that, and being able to stand on my own, knowing that he's still with me, but really just trying to find my path, you know, start to get a direction on my path. And I didn't know how to do that. And when I came home from the retreat, I was gifted a beautiful message in writing that I was typing, but it was a channeled message. And it was very much about him explaining to me how he can be with me, but not as the primary focus. Like, he wants to be the stagehand. He wants to see me on stage and living my life and just being in awe of me and travel and do all the things. You know, I'm the wind in your face. I'm the sun on your face. It was a beautiful gift to start releasing all of the, not all of, but starting to release dependence upon, I need you to identify me, for an identity for myself. Can't walk this path alone. You know, many things came up for me, but that's where my personal journey started to take off for me, myself. And then the second time I came to retreat with you all, that's where the work that I did, can I go ahead and say it?
It was so good. Yeah.
Okay, all right. That's when, I'll just say, through the whole event, when I left the retreat, I knew with such certainty that I was a medicine woman, that my powers and my gifts were so tremendous.
Old gifts, right? Like old gifts.
Yes, and gifts that were already within me. So again, I started stepping out of the darkness and becoming more of the brilliance of the moon, you know, shining a little brighter in the light. I'm not saying that I knew what. Yeah.
Let me share one piece. So a lot of what we were looking at, go ahead and keep grounding while we're talking. A lot of what you were looking at that weekend, we were at our friend's farm. It was just this past summer, it was in June. And there was like stuckness in you, right? Like heavy grief and sadness. And to me, it felt like this old feminine pain, you know, the way women have been persecuted and held down and, held all the pain for the masculine. So the men go off to war and the women stay here and we keep the home safe. And when they come home and their rage is so intense, they drop it into our laps or into our womb. And we're like, yes, we'll take all of that for you. And now go back out to war again, and so lifetimes and lifetimes of women doing this for the masculine. And what was so clear when we were together that weekend was somewhere in your soul, like that had gotten really locked in.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
I am here to do this thing for the masculine.
Yes.
And it was so tight.
Mm-hmm.
And it took so much courage for you to say, I am going to run this energy out my feet. I'm releasing this energy to Mama Earth. This is not mine anymore.
Right, right. And that took me a while to get to that, because the second time I was at your house for retreat is when I actually reconnected with Medicine Woman.
Oh, that's true. Sorry.
Yeah.
I fast forwarded.
No, that's okay. And I didn't really know how to embrace that or to fully connect with that information. It was so cool. It was so cool. But she was still, that name was still something separate than myself, something outside of myself. And so, yes, fast forward to June of this year, unbeknownst to me, it was time to release it. And what really came up for me, and this is a pattern in the DNA in my lineage of every female who I've heard about or know of,
yes,
or know their story, is they were, I would say their essence or their being was minimized by the masculine, by the men in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And
willingly, right? I think a lot of it was willingly.
Yes. Yes. And what I was able to do, and what I'm continuing to work through, is to look at that. They had relationships with alcoholics and, cheaters and emotionally abusive and sometimes physically abusive. And I feel like I came here with what I'm discovering is an opportunity to heal that lineage.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I've worked on at this most recent retreat,
it was big work.
It was big work.
That was a weekend.
It was big work. It was bigger than big. It was bigger than myself. It was, I wasn't expecting to do that releasing. But what I was able to do, and it really came through and started evolving into a form of dance, and it was the Medicine Woman.
Mm-hmm.
It was the Medicine Woman, and she was singing and bringing this right side of the masculine and the left side of the feminine, and she was just pushing this down. And when I think of my hand motions, even,
Mm-hmm.
I think I thought or felt that I was pushing the masculine energy down,
Mm-hmm.
but what could have been happening is I was reflecting how the masculine energy was pushing the feminine energy down for so long. And it was just coming through so powerfully. And with your assistance and with Andrea's alchemy and her oils and everything, I really started moving that masculine energy, like just get out of my body.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that I wanted to rid myself of masculine energy. It was all of the heaviness and the weight
Mm-hmm.
of just probably hundreds, maybe even thousands of years of lifetimes of it pushing down in my soul space.
Mm-hmm.
For the experiences I came here to support the masculine. Oftentimes my feminine was, which I know and I believe, even during the suffragette movement, just looking into some past life information, but I know that I was so such a martyr, if you will, and really came here powerfully in my feminine to serve the masculine.
Mm-hmm.
And it was painful, but it was big work. It was big work. So what I was able to do, because I was ready, because I was fully ready, and if the time was right, was to move out the oppressiveness of the masculine energy, move it through my body, to say no more. I release, I release, I release for myself, I release for my daughter, I release for all lineages who came before me.
Yeah.
I push you out. I no longer need to hold that. It's no longer my journey. It's no longer necessary for me. It no longer serves. So in pushing that through and stomping with my right foot, the masculine side, just, just stomping down. And my medicine woman was singing and like, yeah, and just pushing it down and pushing it down. I mean, this was a out-of-body experience, yet in the body. Yes. So once moving that through, then the feminine started coming in.
That was the part.
Yeah.
Like,
and more space. There was no room in there for the feminine voice. There was no room in my energetic body or my DNA, whatever it is that encompasses my soul and my energy, my patterns. There had been no room for that feminine to step forward and say,
"Rawr.
Here I am.
Yeah.
Here I am. Here I am."
You had all that grief. You remember, like, that there was just a part, because you were trying to move, right? Energy needs movement. It needs, when we're still and fearful and like this, it gets more locked in. But when you start to like move your body and shake and stomp and use your voice and like use your hands, like energy can then start to move. And I remember so clearly, like, you were stomping your feet, and then it was like the grief for the feminine just like hit you, and you were just so sad for a while, right? Like, just feeling this grief that hadn't had room to be felt, right? And that got you almost as stuck as the pain of the masculine. Like, both are powerful energy.
Yeah, the feminine was so wounded, and I couldn't, how could you not feel that when you bring that recognition upon those wounds? And really, maybe for the first time, giving yourself permission to look at, like, holy cow, the word for today, holy shit, that was intense, that was painful, that was so wounding. And you're right. So I started bringing in the song and the actions of that wounding and the pain. And you were like,
nope,
encouraging me. You were encouraging me, but you did not tell me, stomp your foot, stomp it out. You were just like, move it, Andrea, move it, move it, move it, let it go. And you allowed me the space to have that or bring that forward. And then you coached me through move it, move it, move it. And you were serving, your voice was serving in your words as a reminder. Like, I was so deep in that place. And you were the voice out here saying, let it go, let it go, let it go. So you were such a vital part of that, and helping me to release into activating all that would come next. And as you continue to tell me, you weren't giving me actual action steps. You were just saying, like, girl, you've got to do this on your own, and I'm here for you. Let's move it, move it, move it, get rid of that energy. And when it happened, boom.
My whole body was like, yes!
I know. I was stomping my left foot at that time, and the medicine woman was like, hi! Just singing and singing and singing. And her voice became louder and more expressive and more like, I don't even know if it was joy other than like, hear me. Here I am. And that activation that you helped me through Thank you for that. That activation, because it was the right time, it was the right place, and you walked me through each and every step of moving the masculine through. We didn't set off for that to happen, and it was so beautifully, divinely ordained, our actions and the way that you guided me through that. Yeah, thank you for that. It was an absolute 100% life-changing experience with you. 100% life-changing experience. So my soul says thank you for that. And Andrea says thank you because it's so much more fun. It's so much more fun because more than ever, at the age of 51, and more than ever in just these last 2 months, I'm shining light. I'm more full in my moon gifts than ever before.
Yeah.
Than ever before. My trust, you serve as a reflection for me and a validation in so many of my gifts. You know, the gifts that I don't even realize I'm sharing. You're like, well, yeah, you did that. You're, you know. So thank you for that. But having the community, instead of staying in the shadow and being small over here, but having the community that I've been so welcomed into, and now I feel such an integral part, like I have something to offer. You know, before I felt like, wow, these people are just, you know, so in their gifts, and I don't know where I fit in. And that was not anyone saying that or making me feel that way. I was allowing myself to feel that way. That's how I felt about myself. But after being activated, I like to call it an activation. You were there as my friend, and you were a spiritual coach in that moment in your gifts. You were fully in your gift. And it was remarkable and beautiful that you even knew how to guide me through that. And that's why I'm happy to be the first one on this call with you. I didn't know where it was going. I don't know what nuggets of knowledge are in here, but I just trust you completely for your guidance. And I trust myself to recognize the value being offered to me. And I trust myself to take that information and be responsible with it and utilize it for my highest good, how I see fit. Yeah. So I feel like, I don't know if I'm a full moon right now, but I think I'm probably at least a 3/4 moon. I'm not a waning moon.
Oh, you are so gorgeous. Well, and it's so interesting because, you know, we've talked about, well, this is what I would say, you know, so it goes back to what we said earlier. You know, there's a way I could say, I see these things you're supposed to do, and so do it the way I say it should go. And then you follow along, and then you have some beautiful gift. And I'm like, oh no, wait, don't be that gift, right? Like, I'm the leader, you know. And what has been incredible is by helping you step into your knowing in this new way, I've been able to come to you and go, I don't know what I'm supposed to do next. Like,
yes.
what is this thing? Like, can you tell me? You know, so we're able to reflect to each other in a deeper way than we ever have. And it's been an incredible journey already. So one becoming brilliant lets the other, you know, move up. I was watching this movie with Brad over the weekend called Burnt with Bradley Cooper, and he's a chef and has all these problems, you know, addictions and loss. And he ends up, I think, trying to commit suicide this one night, and he ends up in the kitchen of his rival chef, and the chef, you know, gets him sorted out, and in the next morning he makes him breakfast, and he says, you know, you make us better. You make us better because you hold this level of performance with food that we aren't as good at, but we strive to get to where you're at, and so it makes us better. And I really believe that with people stepping into their life purpose, like stepping into mine shows you something that you can then step into in yours, and you stepping into yours let someone else see what they can step into, and it just ripples out, you know?
Right. And the gift in this is discovering your gift, you know, your personal gift.
Yes.
So you read energy so beautifully and lead people through, and you've served me many times, you know, coaching me through energy and being stuck, etc., at different times. And I know and will admit, I was like, I can't see or feel energy like that. Like, whoa, she's really powerful. She's really powerful. Or even people who can see auras or see colors, or who are psychic, or yeah, I mean, all of those gifts. And it's so easy to get a little stuck trying to figure out, like, well, maybe, you know, how do I get there? How do I get where they are? And that's not the purpose of the journey, right?
No.
And the magic and the gift that you brought forth that day, and really for quite some time, but especially during that activation, was so empowering, because I no longer feel like I'm trying to get where you are or get where any other number of people are, but where do I want to get myself?
Yeah.
Where do I want to get myself? And my gifts are unfolding differently. And what I found since that intense work of the masculine and the feminine is that I know that my next focus is to share with other people the history of the masculine feminine imbalance, the importance of getting those balanced, because when they're balanced, there's so much love, they're so much stronger. And then how do we do that, right? How do we bring that balance forth? And that's something that's mine, right? It's not anyone I'm looking around and seeing how anyone else is doing it, because I'm going to be bringing forth a gift that is me, that is unique to me, that is genuine to me, from my heart, from my knowing, from my remembering. Yes. And that happened when you allowed me the space to say, boom, I'm here with you. Let's work through. I'm here to support you in any way. And that led to my activation. For me, it wasn't an activation for you. Although it was so cool. Like, you got to see, like, whoa, I looked at the service, like, you know, what just happened. And I led that, you know, and I know you're very humble. So I'm just going to say it was powerful. And just knowing these filters, I can tell you that, you know, they make complete sense to me. And I have a pattern in my whole life. You know, I didn't know that you were having all of that information coming up with you. So when I asked you to share that information with me about the filters, I was like, how does she know that? Like, where does that come from? But the certainty and the clarity with which you do so is just because it's divine, you know? You open your heart and you got a little tap and you received that information and you're like, okay, I'll put it out there. So I can testify for myself that it fit. Those filters were a match for me, absolutely. And the gift in knowing the filters for me has been, and I think I would say for anyone learning these, is because it gives you, it says it's okay when you're in the shadow of your filter. It's okay. You came here. That was like a protection for you. That was a defense mechanism. That was to allow you the opportunities and the knowings to experience that, so you can feel the contrast of being in the light. You know, in the light of your gift, to be in the gift of your filter. And that's why I feel like I've come full circle with. I know the moon, definitely. I think you told me at one time I was a 70-30, so 70 moon, 30 Orion. And, you know, it lets you know it's okay. Yeah, you were staying in the shadows, of course. You know, of course you were the caregiver and shape-shifting around and taking care of everyone. And then, boom, life offered the opportunity for you to step out of that. But how would I know how great it feels to be in the gift
Yes.
if I hadn't been in the shadow of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you.
Tell us if you want, like, are there any gifts that I'm totally setting you up. All right, I'll name a couple gifts and then you see if there's more you want to add to that.
Okay.
So you have this beautiful gift of holding space, and the way that that translates for everyday people, right? So someone who's just living their life is you move into a new house and you want to claim that house as yours, right? Andrea is the person who can, through Skype or in person, go, let's help you claim that house as yours. So walk through the house with them, right? And sage it and get rid of energies that are stuck or toxic or belong to the people from before you. Houses have energy. They hold energy. They're space holders.
Correct.
So you coming alongside can go, no, let's clear that shit out. And let's bring in my energy. Let's bring in source energy, God love, right? Like let's build a house with something. Yeah. So that's one of your gifts.
I would add to that as well. When I do these house blessings and clearings, the beauty of that opportunity is going in and, when you think about how much has happened, even in your own home, right? How much has happened through joy, sorrow, fear, arguments, sadness, any of those celebrations. There's so much energy that just gets kind of clogged up and stuck, as you said, in the corners and the cabinets everywhere. So by doing that clearing, I do it with intention. I do it with intention because you are also honoring everything that has happened in that space prior to. So you move forward, and I like to bring, even silently or quietly, medicine woman likes to sing and bless each place that I'm going through, and just filling it with love and balanced energy. And if there's anything that the people who are occupying that home, wish to have intentions of what they want that space to feel like for them or for their family, to sit with them in a prayerful intention and just work with them to create that kind of energy and space for them. And it doesn't have to be a new home. I mean, we all have stuck energy in our own homes, right? All of our stuff that gets stuck. So yeah, it's probably one of my favorite things that I have to offer. So thank you for bringing that up, because I didn't know
you're too shy to say it.
I know. I didn't know I was putting that out there today, but yes.
All right, I have another one. Can I keep going?
Okay. Yay, me. I don't know.
So another one, you guided me through this. This was a couple weeks ago. It was the day before I launched Soul Filters. Before I shared it, I could tell there was still something limiting me. It's like, I know I need to talk about Soul Filters. I know it's my gift, but I still have fear. And, what if it goes out the wrong way? Or what if people don't receive it in the right way? And you left me this beautiful message that I used as a guide, right? So I sat down at my desk where I am now, and I just got myself really settled. And then I had these conversations from my soul, my heart, to a few people. Their energy was blocking me from moving forward. And so you gave me words, you gave me the idea, the space to hold. And I had these, psychologists use it all the time, right? Like, have a conversation with your dad from when you were 2 and clear the energy with your dad, except they use different words. You were like, you need to clear this. You need to voice your anger, voice your frustration, voice your grief, and then let that just be energy that moves, but use your voice, right? So here I was about to do Soul Filters, and you're like, activate your voice, girl. Get those last little stuck pieces of energy out. And there's so many people I know who need those conversations with people who are dead or alive. It doesn't matter. It's an energy that they're still hanging on to, a memory or a pattern that they just can't quite break through. And you did that beautifully. So,
thank you.
Yeah. And you can do that over the phone on Skype, right? You can just sit and guide someone.
Yes. Thank you for saying that. How things work for me, and I'm claiming them. I'm claiming the process is just having a conversation, and that conversation can be about what's happening now, or what has happened in the past, you just kind of bring forth in a casual conversation. What I can do is start to recognize certain pieces of what you're saying. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how it works. I'm really just discovering that it works. I don't have to know how. But there are so many tools that I have experienced or learned or utilized or are being given to me, ideas in ways that make practical sense mm-hmm. to something tangible. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not really about like, okay, you go off and, you know, work on this or something. Like, they come to me, the ideas come to me in actual tangible, why don't you give this a shot, you know, mm-hmm. messages and suggestions, recommendations. So it just truly comes from my heart and my soul, and I can't put it in a box because it's different for everyone and it comes through differently. So that was
the gift. That is the gift of the moon, right? You tap into the individual and see what they need.
Oh, yeah.
You know, just this little thing that you do. Like, I don't know, like that person, yeah, I can totally tell you exactly what's happening in their energy space. I can just feel it right over here.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, and then, you know, 2 more other specific things. Like, I know you're just beginning to discover a lot of the new things that you want to do, but these are things you already do very well. Letting go, right? Like, you are unbelievable at allowing people room to leave and not grab or hold on to. So your daughter, right? Anyone who's had a child that is transitioning to college or transitioning to their own new independent life, like, you do that with such grace. And sometimes that's all we need is, you know, a coach who goes, I gotcha. Like, it'll take a couple sessions. We're going to get on the phone and we're going to walk you through this, but it's okay. We can unravel that. We can let that go. And then, you know, the deeper one, as hard as that is, the deeper one is, you know, grief when you lose a loved one, you know, when they transition to whatever their next adventure as a soul will be here in the human form. It's hard. Mm-hmm. It's painful, right? And it's so easy to get stuck. And you do it with such love, with such compassion. So I would encourage anyone who's watching that's grieving, like, reach out to you. Yeah.
Please do. Any conversation of that. And I would say, even if you're finding yourself in a caregiving role, what I found, and it's coming up for a reason, there are a lot of tools out there, or I should say opportunities, like to go for dementia, for example. If you're with Alzheimer's patients, you can go on their national website and there's a forum, a community forum, and people can go on there and say, I'm just having a horrible day. And everybody says, hang in there. And, you know, this happened and I'm so angry with my siblings because no one's helping me and I just want to express it here. And everyone says, it's okay. Or, yeah, you know, my siblings, I'm not getting any support either and I'm angry. And I think that gives them what I felt when I went on that board, because I was actually looking for a medical piece in there. But, you know, where my heart was kind of sad for all of those people was not so much in their experience, but, you know, they had just a few seconds of, whew, thank you, I feel supported, because that person's pissed off too in my situation. And this person said, yeah, I can get through it. And this person said, you know, feel sorry for you, been there, here, now, I'm there now. And then what happens when they close out of that forum and go back into their loved one? Like, where's the support then? You know, it's so temporary. It's so temporary. And what I can bring forth in any of these topics, and a various number of topics, are just some support that is not going to be, I'm so sorry, you know, you poor thing, because I just don't feel that. I don't care to receive support in that way, and I just don't feel it's helpful. But what I can say is, yeah, shit.
Holy shit.
Yeah, holy shit, been there. And then turn it around to look a different way to make that person feel more empowered, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just looking at it differently. You don't stay in the wound, right, as a victim, and you find a way to turn it around for yourself. And I have been through issues with my weight. I have been through grief and loss. I've been a caregiver. I have
been a mama.
I've been a mama. I am a mama. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've experienced that going to college. I've experienced dropping her off at first grade, junior high, and now she's in Atlanta. That just happened a month ago. So, yeah, I would encourage if anyone would like to reach out and just start having those conversations. I would love to hear you, to allow you to be heard and seen. And, you know, we'll throw some things out there that you can go, like you got a little homework and you can, you know, joyfully apply those to your life.
Look at you claiming it. Woohoo!
Holy shit. I told Viv, just in disclosure, I told Viv this morning that the words coming up for me as I was thinking about this call were holy shit, in the most wonderful.
Like, that's the phrase?
In the most wonderful way. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you didn't know I was going to ask you about what sort of coaching do you do, but it's the perfect expression of all the work that you've been going through. Like, you're ready. You have so much to offer and to share, and so many ways you can guide people. And man, there's a lot of people who are lost, right? Like, I've been there, you've been there, we've all been there.
Yeah.
So,
and it doesn't come from, I'm not, you know, formally trained in that. This is coming from
life experience.
Life experience.
Life experience.
I'm saying it comes from here, not the textbook, but I could write a textbook on it.
Definitely.
Yeah, because I allowed myself to be in it.
Yes.
And process it. I didn't try to jump out and avoid it. Like I stayed in it and I did the work and I felt it and I moved through. So.
Yes. So we will, I'll be posting the video on my website. So I'll put a link under there if people want to contact you directly. This is the nudge that you need to have a web page somewhere so people can go, oh, this is Andrea, right? And you can start to share your story because it's so beautiful.
I do have a certain email even that I can share with you.
Okay.
And,
great.
Yeah.
Great. We're on it.
I know. We're set.
All right. So we went a little longer than I thought, and also like it was perfect. It was perfect. I knew we'd have a lot to say, and anytime with you, babe, it's joy-filled.
Yeah.
Joy-filled. So
yeah.
Love you.
Love you.
All right, healing our souls. First session. Woohoo!
Okay.
We'll be back next week.
Okay.
Thank you, my love.
Thank you, honey.